On January 1, 2025, New Orleans was struck by an attack that would leave the city and the nation grappling for answers. A man drove a truck into a crowd in the French Quarter, resulting in the deaths of 14 people and injuries to dozens more. Authorities quickly identified the suspect as 42-year-old Shamsud-Din Jabbar, a former U.S. Army soldier, who was killed by police after he opened fire on law enforcement. But who was Shamsud-Din Jabbar? How did a man with such a decorated past become the suspect in one of the most horrific attacks in recent memory? In the moments leading up to the attack, Jabbar posted videos on social media, claiming he was inspired by ISIS and expressing a desire to kill. Investigators found an Islamic State flag in the truck, alongside weapons and explosive devices. The FBI has labeled this a potential act of terrorism, though they are still working to confirm whether Jabbar had any direct affiliations with terrorist groups. Shamsud-Din Jabbar was born in Texas, a quiet and reserved man, according to those who knew him well. Friends described him as smart and articulate, a man who was deeply involved in his faith. For years, he was a loving father and a kind neighbor. His former neighbor, Marilyn Bradford, remembered him as a man who would help her carry groceries, someone who spent weekends with his children. She said, "He was no terrorist to me." Yet something seemed to shift in Jabbar's life over the past few years. Jabbar enlisted in the Army in 2007, during a time when U.S. troops were deeply involved in conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. He began as a human resource specialist, but his career soon transitioned into information technology, a skill he would later apply in both the Army and civilian life. Jabbar deployed to Afghanistan in 2009, serving at various bases, including Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Alaska and Fort Bragg in North Carolina. He served in the Army Reserve until 2020, achieving the rank of Staff Sergeant and leaving with an honorable discharge. While in the Army, Jabbar encountered legal trouble. In 2015, he pleaded guilty to a drunk driving charge after he was found driving under the influence at Fort Bragg, one of the Army's largest military installations. This wasn't his only run-in with the law. He had faced misdemeanor charges in Texas, including property theft and driving with an invalid license. After leaving the Army, Jabbar took on a new path. He earned a degree in computer information systems from Georgia State University, and by all accounts, secured a stable and lucrative job at the global accounting firm, Deloitte. His annual salary was $120,000, but beneath the surface, Jabbar's personal finances were in turmoil. Court records show that during his second divorce, he revealed his financial struggles, owed debts, an impending foreclosure on his home, and an inability to keep up with payments. In 2022, Jabbar's real estate company, Blue Meadow Properties, lost its license when it expired, adding to his list of financial setbacks. Those who were closest to Jabbar began to notice a change in his behavior. His second wife and her husband reported that Jabbar had been acting erratically in the months leading up to the attack. Dwayne Marsh, his ex-wife's current husband, said Jabbar had become increasingly unpredictable, being all crazy, cutting his hair after converting to Islam. Jabbar's brother Abdur also commented that while Jabbar had been Muslim for most of his life, his recent actions seemed to be a case of radicalization, not an expression of religion. The tragedy in New Orleans shocked the nation. As Jabbar's videos surfaced indicating his intentions were inspired by ISIS, many questioned how such a peaceful, kind man could turn into someone capable of carrying out such violence. Yet the path to radicalization is complex, often involving a combination of personal struggles, ideological influences, and a shift in one's mental state. Was Jabbar acting alone? Authorities are still piecing together the investigation, looking for possible accomplices, and analyzing any connections between the New Orleans attack and another deadly explosion outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. But for now, the facts are still coming to light. The story of Shamsud-Din Jabbar is a tragic reminder of the complexities of human behavior, of how a man can go from being a loving father and friend to the perpetrator of a deadly act of violence. It is a stark example of how personal struggles, extremist ideologies, and mental health can intertwine in ways that are impossible to predict. As the investigation continues, we'll be left asking, what led Jabbar down this path, and what can we do to prevent such tragedies in the future? Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for updates as this story develops.